Hey everyone, Phil and Jack here from Warhammer Online, and we're going to be having a look at Games Workshop's new release today, Forbidden Power. Going to do a bit of an unboxing, have a look inside. I'm going to confess, I've read a bit of the book, so we're going to have a little bit of chat about the campaign aspect of it. There's some interesting stuff in the story, not going to give everything away because that's spoilers. Might have a bit of a close look at some of the models along the way. But I think this is a short one. It's it's of the ilk of the Malign Sorcery. Yeah. It's good. There's some new units in there. There's some new endless spells in there. There's new scenery coming as well. So you don't only get the rules for the Penumbula, which kind of fuddles everyone's minds, but you also get rules for the new terrain that's coming out as well on cards, which is great. And I really like the story behind this, so we'll cover a bit of that today as well. Okay, let's get into this box. Here we are, Malign Sorcery-esque packaging.
Yep.
Not quite as big.
No, but there's not as much in there, is there? I mean, the endless spells, there isn't as many endless spells, but the endless spells are certainly of the bigger variety, aren't they? More like the Molten Infernoth and the Raging Tauros Bull.
As you can see, this thing is jam-packed full, and I'd say it's probably as heavy as Malign Sorcery. We're going to put the box out of the way, or maybe just briefly before we move on, I just want to have a mention of this artwork, which is some of the best artwork I've seen so far in Age of Sigmar.
The artwork in this book's beautiful.
Absolutely stunning. There's the new piece of terrain, the Penumbula, I think it's called, if I remember right. And we've got the Launch and Meet the Soul Seeker. You know, so it kind of goes through, and we'll have a look inside the box anyway, but it's all good stuff. Okay, first up, here we are with a piece of terrain. First thing that struck me about this is kind of when you put it together, it's bigger than I expected.
Yeah.
Which is good. And, even if you're not playing this campaign, it's important to note this is a 100-point unit.
Yeah, anybody can take it.
The rule is anybody can take it, but it does take up your...
scenery slot.
No, it takes up your, not the allegiance, what it is when you bring along an ally. It takes up your allegiance, so it takes up your ally points.
Okay.
So it's 100 points off of your ally allotment, which is,
I mean,
as we know...
You can take it in 1,000-point games, which
I think
is
that's
good,
right, because,
you get 200 points
10%.
of allies?
Yeah, I think it's basically 10% is the point system, so, in a 1,000-point game, you can still bring this along. Incredible piece of terrain, incredible piece of design. Games Workshop, as we know, absolutely knocking this stuff out of the park. The detail is insane. For a terrain piece, brilliant. And the story behind it, fantastic, which we'll come back to. Okay, so two of identical of, the bridges.
Yeah, the weird Shaishian bridges.
Which we'll come to. Then we've got
my favourite.
Lunch and Meat.
Yeah, the Ferryman.
Yeah, Lunch and Meat, the Ferryman. And then we've got Nagash's head.
Nagash's head and some triangles.
And some broken pyramids. So we'll come into again what all of those things are. Bases for said endless spells. I'm doing this sideways, which I know is a bit weird, but at least it fits on camera a bit better. The obligatory artwork / something to protect your books from the models, and I think that's, I remember actually once saying it's a shame they do that with the artwork because it kind of gets trashed by the models above. I mean, in this instance it hasn't. It's in great condition, a few scratches, but of course the idea of this is to simply
stop your book
protect your book from damage. So makes sense after all. We have cards for each one of the terrain pieces, so let's just quickly go through that. We've got the Penumbral Engine, the Hallowed Storm Throne. Big piece of terrain, by the way. We saw this at Warhammer Fest. Ginormous piece of terrain. The Enduring Stormfault, the biggest piece of terrain you can do. It's like the biggest combination of them all. We have the Shattered Temple. These are brilliant pieces. They're absolutely amazing. And the Sigmarite Dais. And that in itself, I was talking to John Moggy McGee. So John Moggy, or Moggy's Miniatures, was entering into Golden Demon this year at Fest. I think he got a finalist badge, so he's pretty happy with that. But he was saying he'd be quite happy to paint that as a bust. The detail on it's insane. It's fantastic. We have the Time Worn Ruin, and then we are into Lanchon, the Soul Seeker. Soulscream Bridge, the Horrorghast, and the Shards of Valagar.
Yeah.
The dogs barking at horses going past, and then we've got the Penumbral Engine. So there we go. Right, next up is the book. What we've got is, this is the Forbidden Power, expansion book. It's essentially a campaign book, and inside that we've got a great story. This is some of the best Sigmar reading I've done. Love it, and we're going to cover that a bit because it deserves covering. And we also have, the how to paints and those kind of things, and the stuff that talks about the armies and the models, all good stuff. We have the two main forces, basically. The entire thing is about defending this city called Lethis. And Lethis is sat on top of one of these storm vaults where Sigmar has buried a most horrendous creature. And the story of even the capturing and imprisoning of the creature is quite tragic in its own right. So really, really good stuff. These are the defenders. It's made up of all sorts of people. You have, Free Guild in there, which, strangely enough, aren't listed in this photo, but you have the Free Guild city, you have the Stormhost protecting them, there are some Caradrons in there, there's Fireslayer mercenaries, there's Ideneth Deepkin in there as well. And then on the Court of Sorrows, this is all under, Lady Alinda, Lady Alinda's force, basically. Obviously,
you've got the split down the middle of the Nighthorn. You've got Kurtos Valentian in there, and then you've kind of got the Death Rattle allies as well with that.
Yeah. Good looking force, I have to say. We have all sorts in there in terms of allegiance abilities and battle traits specific to those armies.
There's 2 new allegiance abilities.
Rules around how the mercenaries work, which we'll come back to. Specific, of course, missions in there as well. Things covering the endless spells, and a great little sort of card here for keeping on top of your campaign roster, which I think is brilliant. But we'll come back to the story. That's probably what I want to visit more than anything, really. You get the core rulebook. Cool, great stuff. Always good to have an extra core rulebook on hand. Here's the instructions, of course.
How to build everything.
Colour, but black and white. You can tell it's colour. There is colour in there. But I'd say it's a fairly straightforward build. You don't need a lot of guidance. Most of them are like 3 or 4 pieces most. The biggest one, of course, is the engine.
Yeah.
And then we've got some great little tokens. We have, things like the orrery. By the way, these are all kind of attached to the missions. Well, kind of all, because of course you do have grave sites in there as well, which, most people would have grave sites. You've also got objective markers in there as well, which is pretty cool. Quite nice looking ones. We have some of the specific rules that take place within the mission, so little markers there for weaponry and stuff like that. So these are weird little things that you find along the way. And of course, I can't remember what that token's
actually for. I think it's the 50-50 for the scenery piece.
It's the 50-50. It's which rule is in effect, of course, because it flips from one to the other, doesn't it? So I think it's just as a reminder that's going. Let's get those out the way, and let's revisit a couple of bits. What we'll do before we have a close-up, we'll end on a close-up of the models, but let's go first and foremost into some of my favourite bits of the book. First and foremost, the story is incredible. There's twists and turns in the plots, which is absolutely brilliant. What I absolutely adore is this story starts and ends in the same place. So this ultimately is a whole bunch of stuff of background between Teclis and Sigmar.
Yeah, which people are going to be getting excited about.
This explains the tensions between them, the differences of opinion, and where it basically starts with in this section here is Teclis creates these mighty gifts for Sigmar, and they're engines of enlightenment. Basically, the idea is just by standing in their very presence, they can, imbue you with knowledge, and what Teclis is trying to do is make humanity rise above, to take them to an enlightened world of order. So he gives these mighty gifts to Sigmar, and Sigmar goes, "That's an awesome present. Thanks, dude. I wonder if I get a dwarven god to smash them to pieces with a hammer, I can use them for something else." So it's a classic case, it's like being given a Ferrari and then using it to plough the fields. And of course that doesn't make Teclis very happy at all.
No, Teclis is all about his nice, elegant creations, then you've got a dwarven god hitting it with a hammer until it does something.
So he's not a happy bunny, basically. And essentially that entire story kind of covers, that relationship.
Yeah.
It starts with Sigmar and Teclis and ends with Sigmar and Teclis, and I love that kind of. That's good storytelling.
Bringing it back to the beginning.
Absolutely brilliant. What goes off in between is interesting. Sigmar is not without reason to mess around with these engines. Essentially, what he's done during the entire war of the Age of Myth. So this is before the Age of Chaos and all the rest. This is literally when he was taking over the. He floated through space and went, I'm going to take command of all of this and form a pantheon of gods.
So his pantheon is in effect. So he's actually with Gork and Morka.
They're all in there.
I forgot his name.
Grimnir.
Who's the death god? Nagash, of course. How could you
there.
forget him?
Yeah. And they kind of cover that a little bit. They say Nagash is not super happy about it, but he was always along. He certainly went around and killed a whole bunch of other gods of death. It's worth mentioning. And in fact, our little man here on the floaty boat is indeed one of those gods of death that Nagash conquered. So worth noting. So it was definitely in Nagash's interest to be part of the pantheon during that time, because he became the supreme ruler of the dead, basically. But during that time, Sigmar had gone around and conquered these terrible beasts that were absolutely horrible. And, even with his power and the combined power of the Pantheon indestructible, there were weapons that were just too dangerous. And again, even with a mighty blow of Galmaraz, wouldn't go anywhere. Yeah. So Sigmar had to do something with these things. He had to hide them to make sure they didn't get into the wrong hands. And, of course, this is where these Enlightenment engines come into it. Yeah. What he does is get Grundy. I think it's Grundy. Yes, it is Grundy.
Yes.
So he gets Grundy to... by the way, this is one of the best bits where Sigmar walks into Grundy's forge and, Grundy's just there. But he calls Sigmar like a young pup or something like that, which is absolutely brilliant, basically walks up to Grundy and said, how's it gone? And he was like, it's over there. It's in the corner of his workshop. Like, I did it. Yeah, it wasn't easy, but I did it. So he breaks these engines and reforges them in the shape of, even in the styling of Sigmar, if you know what I mean, and reverses them. Reverse engineers them, but also reverses their power. So no longer do they enlighten you, they befuddle you, they confuse you, they confound you, they hide the truth rather than enlighten you of the truth. So a real insult to Teclis. And Sigmar even says to Grundy, I hope Teclis never finds out about this. And Grundy's like, Teclis is kind of the dude that knows everything. Yeah. Whether you want
he is Lord of Enlightenment.
Whether you want him to know everything or not, he knows everything. So Grundy kind of keeps quiet and goes, well, no harm, no foul. If Teclis is not happy with Sigmar and I've managed to mess with some of his tech, let's not worry about it. Jumping back into the book, though, before we go into the story, and I'm just looking for the right camera, there you go, we get update on the Necroquake. Really, the Necroquake is not an update, it just gives you the story, and it's kind of the magic rippling across. What happens with that is, essentially, it exposes these dangerous relics. It stops the engines from working properly. People can get to them, so it kicks off a whole bunch of action of people trying to get into these, either chaos factions sending visions to their leaders saying there's a mighty weapon of power, or just privateers who go, there's money to be made here, etc. Some interesting stuff here, we've got the King of Ashes shattered his dread form into 10,000 smouldering fragments. Only the tyrant's sword, the blame of fulmination, remained, burning still with a desire to conquer and enslave. So we've got this mighty sword. There's a weird serpent, which is flaming coils, burning everything to ashes. This is interesting because it kind of looks like the creature that the Hydra creature that you can get for the Dark Elves. But so this is a beast should break free from the rune-marked cage. Its fiery wrath would be terrible to behold. So the Scourge of Asperia, and giving you some examples of the kind of horrible stuff that's tied away amongst all of this. Again, getting into some of the different things. So we've got this weird city of the Calamanexis, hangs above the molten tides of the Beryllium. I'm not even going to try that. Beryllium. sea rather. Basically, a molten ringing planet, extremely deadly to go by. The Dwarden have kept away from it because it just ruins and melts their ships and everything. And then, of course, the thing gets disturbed by the Necroquake, and people start to go, let's get in there and have some fun. This is the bit on Grundy talking to Sigmar as well. Brilliant. So that's a great bit. This is the he cannot know, said Sigmar. Teclis would not understand. You and I alone will know the truth. There are secrets that must be hidden for the good of all. Grundy said nothing. He knew the futility of hiding anything from the elf god.
Of course.
It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
We're getting into the realms of the campaign now, and I'm not going to go too much into the story of the campaign because I think people should discover it themselves. But it is full of intrigue, double crossing. Yeah. We have Fire Slayers in there. I'm a Fire Slayer player. I wanted the Fire Slayers to be the heroes. And they are the heroes up until the point where they're the baddies. You know what I mean? It's like, oh man, just so gold hungry.
Yeah.
Essentially, I'll talk through the Fire Slayers bit as a Fire Slayer player. So the Fire Slayers save the city from the first assault, which is important. They break the siege and get inside and retreat to the city.
Yeah.
They'd actually been on a mission doing other stuff, and they were camped outside the city waiting for their payment to arrive. And the hordes arrive and they have to pile into the city, and they help defend the city and hold back the first wave, if you like.
Yeah.
The problem is their payment doesn't arrive, and it still doesn't arrive, and the city is now surrounded and no payments coming.
Yeah.
And they're all based on pride. So the Rune Sun is kind of going, I'm starting to be made to look a fool of here. Tensions are building between the forces, etc., etc. And in the end, Nagash kind of sends an envoy and says, hey, check out this massive pot of gold. And they go, yeah. So they turn, basically, as mercenaries. They turn upon the Sigmars.
Which, they didn't get paid.
And I think it's because
they are dwarves,
and I kind of need to accept that nature of Fire Slayers. I think because for me, I'm like, they're good guys, but they're not really. They're kind of
nobody's a good guy.
Nobody's a good guy. I think good and evil. I like the idea that sometimes it's more complex.
Depends on your perspective.
Depends on your purse. So what is amazing about the story, and I'm not going to go into it, but the good guys who save the day, it's hilarious.
Yeah,
and it was the last people I would expect to save the day. So fantastic stuff. You need to play the campaign. You need to get into it. I want to say who it is. Shall I say who it is?
No, you can't. You can't spoil it.
I'll say it's probably already been spoiled. It's probably already been leaked.
It's probably already been out there.
Flesh Eater Calls.
Flesh Eater Calls. Of course.
They're amazing. I'm not going to tell the story, but they're just utterly stunning because it's the best part of the lore you like about Flesh Eater Calls.
I love that. I love it.
It's the fact that they think they are noble.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh no, a city of peril.
Here I come.
Tally ho.
Sally for troops.
Absolutely fantastic stuff. So, right, what else have we got in this book? We do indeed have allegiance abilities and battle traits. Let's have a quick look at this. We'll pick on the Lethesian army.
This is kind of a pantheon of order almost, isn't it? You can have a mixture of...
So this is the interesting thing. A Lethesian army can only include units that have that one or more of the keywords. Stormcast Eternals, Iden of Deepkin, Caradron Overlords, Fire Slayers, Excelsior War Priests, Hammers of Sigmar, Volstagg, and Voltornos. Oh, in addition, it can include units with the following keywords.
Cannot.
Oh, it cannot. Yeah, so you can't have the big guys show up, okay? Where does that take us, though? We've got these guardians of the city, if you like. You have command traits, you have artifacts of power, and prayers, specifically. And this is the interesting thing. I want to visit this. Each priest.
Yeah.
Now that includes rune smiters.
Yeah.
That includes.
It includes the Excelsior War Priest as well.
Of course.
Which is good.
Yeah. Let's pick on one. This is Mordrad's Resurrection. In your hero phase, one friendly model that knows this prayer can chant it. If it does so, make a prayer roll. On a 1 to 2, it's not answered. On a 3 plus, the prayer is answered. If the prayer is answered, pick a defender unit wholly within 18 inches of the model chanting this prayer. You may return a number of slain models to that unit that have combined wound characteristics equal to or less than the roll of a d3. So it's a quick bringing models back. Now, into a Fire Slayer army, that's not an ability. That's a new ability. The idea of being able to bring You know,
Yeah.
but it's wound characteristics.
It would be harder with Fire Slaying, so
they've
you
got
have
2
no
wounds.
one
There's
wound
no
models.
single wound models, so you got to roll that. If you roll the 1,
Yeah.
you know. Anyway, slain models, with a combined wound characteristics equal to or less than the roll of a d3. So, not brilliant, but not fantastic. I did see a power in this, which I think it's an artifact, maybe. You know what? I'm not going to find it, so I'm not going to stall trying to find it, but I'm going to tell you about it. It's somewhere in here, and it might be one of the mighty weapons that you can discover as part of the campaign. But in that one, you can essentially slay your own troops and gain them directly back as wounds.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's quite good.
Yeah, it's like pick a unit within something like 12 inch, and you just remove 5 models and give your hero 5 wounds.
Ooh, that's really good.
Yeah, especially for someone like Flesh Eater Corpse.
Yeah,
where
when
you've got so many disposable models. Or especially when you've got an army where you can bring models back.
Yeah.
For me, that's quite painful.
Yeah.
For you as a Fire Slayer player, but for you with 1,000 ghouls, you're just like, knock 5 off and my hero's back up.
Yeah.
And that's not like once per game, that's like every turn.
Yeah.
So pretty crazy stuff. You know, command traits, I thought this one, we've got this Sinister Aura, add 1 to the General's wound characteristics. In addition, subtract 1 from Bravery characteristics of enemy units while they're within 6 inches of this General.
That's not bad.
You could have, I mean, from my perspective, because these are additional to your abilities, if I remember rightly, I think. Does it?
No,
they're not. Yeah,
no.
Sorry, they're not, because I was going to say you could have... actually, I could still do it. I could have a Rune Sun on Magma Drop with 16 wounds pushed up to 17 wounds with this. Oh, is that a command ability? Yeah. Never mind. Never mind. Okay, lots of cool stuff in there. That's just the mercenary stuff is quite interesting. It kind of talks about there's a mechanic for it, how it works. There are mercenary units. They're given the mercenary keyword.
Yep.
They have a disruptive presence at the start of your hero phase. At the first battle round, you do not receive 1 command point.
Oh, wow, okay.
If your army includes mercenary units.
So there is a negative to taking mercenaries.
Yep, definitely, which I kind of like.
Interesting.
We have there's something in there as well, the fulfill ones over. So there we go, which is the Greyfeared mercenaries. So we have add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made with melee weapons of Fire Slayer mercenary units that target enemy units that made the charge move in the same turn. However, from the start of the 3rd battle round, subtract 1 from bravery characteristics of mercenary units while they're not wholly within 18 inches of the general. And this is to kind of represent the tide turning in the game.
Yeah.
And it's represented in the story. One of the things that turns the Rune Sun is after a particularly bloody part of the battle, he turns around and sees, you know, hundreds upon hundreds of his kin slain.
Yeah.
For what? He's not even received payment.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the what are we all dying for?
Yeah.
And I love how that's like a thematic rule that kind of says, you know what, we're out of here.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean the reality is that's what a bravery hit is. It's removing units, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, like it. Okay, we've got the rules for the engine. I think they've been covered quite well on the Warhammer community page, but you know it's still very cool stuff. And then there's like we're getting into the campaign section. Not gonna. Oh, here we go. So we've got things like these awakened artifacts, which are really cool. The Geistbane, for instance, 1st level, improve the Ren characteristics by 1. 2nd level, add 1 to the Geistbane's attack characteristics. 3rd level, if the unmodified hit roll of attack made by the Geistbane is a 6, then the attack inflicts 1 mortal wound. Improve the Ren characteristics by 3 instead of 1. Level 5, add 3 to the Geistbane's attack characteristics instead of 1.
Yeah, so it gets more and more powerful as you go up.
Incredible. So this is as the campaign goes on. As I've mentioned, there is a mechanic for awakening the awakened artifact as it goes through the levels. I'm not going to get too much into the rules because it's absolutely brilliant. But needless to say, I want to talk a little bit. I said that the story started and ended with Teclis. And what I want to do is just talk a little bit about what that means. Essentially, after all this campaign is over, as far as the story is concerned, you know, I'm not going to go into the end of the story. It's impressive. It's epic. Sigmar's looking down upon the field of battle, basically going, oh well, you know, c'est la vie. Some you win, some you lose. Parts of the battle he wins, parts of the battle he loses. The whole thing within this the weapon that's being protected, if you like, is actually this horrible beast, this terrible creature. I think I talked about it previously. Teclis appears in Sigmar's throne room, and they have this discussion where Teclis basically berates Sigmar for trashing his
Which
gift
works.
anyway.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's Ferrari. Why are you dragging a plough through a muddy field?
Yeah.
And and I think it sets up the scene. But for those, I think it's important to say, for those people who are thinking this is the start of the High Elf release, I think we've got a bit of time yet.
Yeah.
They basically say in this that Teclis walks away from this.
Yeah.
He said, look, this is your mess.
This isn't my problem.
Yeah, this is your mess, not my problem. You sort it. Although he does hint, there will be a time come when I need your help. And then strolls off. So it's like, I'm not giving you my help, but I will need your help at some point in the future. Yeah. So I think, again, we probably all know where that's going. This is the tensions between Teclis and Slaanesh.
Well, there's been hints at it in the Daughters of Cain book, these golden warriors with feathered wings and these these dragon-like creatures from Malarian. So we know they're coming, but just not yet.
It's going to be epic.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people saw the Slaanesh release as kind of like it's just round the corner.
Here we go.
But maybe not.
No.
Maybe not. Not with the end of this book. It feels like Soul Wars the Soul Wars has to play out.
Yeah.
Before I think we see the Depravity Wars or whatever it's going to be called.
The War of Slaanesh and Elves.
The War of Depravity or something like that. It's going to be...
Yeah.
I think you're going to kind of, as far as the timeline's concerned, and this is a complete guess, but you'll see it stabilise one way or another. The Soul Wars will come to an end, and then Slaaneshi will unleash upon the world, and then... the world will fall rather from, death cults and all the rest. They'll fall into, pleasure cults and all that kind of stuff. And we'll see the rise of that. Because, very much the Age of Chaos was really when Slaanesh played no role in the Age of Chaos.
Not really.
You had Nurgle inside. You had Nurgle, you had Khorne, you had Tzeentch. And all of the stories and the books, they very rarely touch upon the stuff. It's very much a backstage.
Yeah, because he was gone by then, wasn't he?
So I think Slaanesh is going to be pretty annoyed when he comes out of his imprisonment.
He's missed all this.
Maybe that's where it's going. Could be completely wrong.
Yeah.
Might be going somewhere completely different. Maybe Slaanesh will always be, for now, trapped. And it's more about his army vying for faction. You've got those three factions that are all vying for supremacy. So maybe that's the narrative for now. Who knows? But interesting to see that. I think, as far as Teclis is concerned, he's taking a back seat on the Soul Wars. This isn't my problem.
It's fair enough. They're elves, aren't they? They never get involved with.
I mean, it's interesting.
They don't need to.
I'm reading, or rather listening to, one of the audiobooks at the moment, which is Black Talon: The First Mark, and there's mention of the High Elves in there, and they talk about these, winged creatures with high helms. So to me, that's probably the High Elf faction. So I think we know where that faction's going. It's just not right now. Right, okay. I think that gets us to the end. I don't think we need to do a close-up of the models.
I think everybody's seen them.
They're gorgeous. Everybody's seen them. They're fantastic. Check it out, basically. It's already up on pre-order. I'm impressed with it. It's a hell of a lot of kit. I think it's one of those things. A lot of people buy this stuff for the models. They look at the rules. They go, can I, that piece of terrain, can I add that to my army? That magic spell is really cool for my army. But the campaign book, don't ignore it. The story's brilliant. And play the campaign. Try it out. I'm tempted, seeing as though we've got more or less every faction represented in this campaign, to almost try and film it.
Definitely.
To go through. There's it's 6 bat reps, 6 missions. We should give it a go. The only thing we need to do is get Pink to bring his Stormcast along, I think, and then we'd be good. So let's do that. All right.
Cool.
Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you again next time.